Hey everyone, welcome to another ATDev Podcast. I'm so happy to be joined today by Cathy Schwallie Farmer, a longtime friend and advisor to ATDev. Hey Cathy, thanks for being here.
Hey, I'm really excited to be here. It's been a while since we saw each other and heard each other, so it's an honor to be here with ATDev.
Oh, thank you. So you have had a really interesting career arc that has spanned software engineering, disability, and particularly in the autism space. Can you talk a little bit about your background and how you got to where you're at today?
Sure. Started when I started in computer science when it was in the math department back in the day.
Oh, wow.
So that was in the 80s. And I went to UMass Boston, which is a state college in Boston, and all at that point, the professors that I had were moonlighting from MIT and Harvard. So I got a great
Oh,
education for $500 a semester. It was pretty great.
oh, wow.
And then I moved out to San Francisco and worked as a software engineer from 86 to and I worked for a software company starting in I want to say 92ish, 93ish. No, that's got to be wrong. It would have been 88. 88 through 93, I worked for Jandel Scientific. We wrote software for scientists and sold. So we used to joke that we were one of the most not plagiarized, illegally copied software because before it was encrypted, it was floppy disks. And R&D shops and universities and things didn't have a lot of money. That's unfortunate, but it was great software. Learned a lot. And then I worked for a small boutique Windows consulting firm for a New York second. And then I did my own consulting for a while. And then I went to work I had babies, a couple baby boys. And then I went to work for Kaiser. At Kaiser, I spent about 17 years there and started as a software engineer. And then at the time in the 90s, there weren't a lot of technical people who could speak business. So I was able to do both and it forced me up the ladder, if you will. And it was great. I really enjoyed working there and working on the systems to help people who were patients and members of Kaiser. And then I left, did some more consulting, and then I did a startup for 2 years with my ex husband on employment legal software. That was really interesting, pitching to VCs on the other side of the aisle there, and just was able to do that for 2 years. You make a commitment when you're an entrepreneur to how long you can afford to do it without getting any income from your
Sure.
company. And so 2 years was my limit. We hit 2 years, and so we put it on the shelf. We're still talking about it, about getting acquired or doing some changes. And then I went to work back in digital health for Bay Health Development, which was a joint venture of UCSF and John Muir, doing a lot of tech work for Canopy Health. So that was interesting. And then I decided to retire. But along the way in my career, I've been doing some angel investing since '09. And I learned a lot about investment and startups as an angel investor. And in 2020, as Dr. Dunn and I started the Autism Angels Group. And so
Yes.
I'm also an angel at the Berkeley Angels Network. And then I might do some direct angel investment through all the work I do in the UC Berkeley startup ecosystem, which includes Skydeck, Launch, Big Ideas, and then something loosely associated, which is Battery AI. So I have a lot of fun with all that work. And I've been inspired by my two brothers on the spectrum to do neurodiversity, autism investment and mentoring and investment in founders who are on the spectrum as well as neurodiverse solutions. So yeah, maybe I took too long, but that's my
Oh,
background.
yeah, that's so interesting. It's really interesting to hear how you've progressed in your career. I think through a lot of our advisors and people in the startup world, people rarely stay in the field that they started out in. And I think that's something really interesting for entrepreneurs to see. And also what you mentioned about being a technical person that can speak business language and actually talk to people, how that has been so important in getting you to your next step.
Yep. It's with technology changes, technologists are less technical because of the way software development is today. So it's a little different than it was 30 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I know that you've done a lot of work in autism and having your brothers. Can you talk a little bit about some of the work that you've done and really what inspired you to start Autism Angels?
Actually, my father, who passed away a little over 8 years ago, was a big advocate in this space. He started the Organization for Autism Research along with Jim Sachs, Peter Gerhardt, and Mike Maloney.
Mm,
And that's out of Washington, D.C., and they garner donations and grants to give out grants for scientific research for practical, functional research, not bio research. Okay.
okay,
And so it's a wonderful scientific council that are all volunteers. And there's a larger group of volunteers that parse out the grant requests. And these are about $50,000 grants for scientific research. And it often leads head to larger NIH, NSF, CDMRP type grants later, if that's where they want to go, if that's where the research leads them. So these people who donate their time are amazing. And I've learned a lot listening. As a board member, I can listen in. So my dad started this, and when he was starting to go downhill with his health, he asked me to take on a seat because he knows how close I am to my brother Michael. And he
mm,
knows I care about this. So I had been on boards with school and Boy Scouts, but that's different, right? This is a very different situation. So that was my first nonprofit board. And then I learned a lot. And I started that about 10 years ago, I think, or maybe 11. I've been on that board. And then I was asked to be on Dr. Bryna Siegel's board. And now I'm her president of the Autism Center of Northern California. Again, learned a
oh,
lot.
wow,
I think Dr. Siegel asked me, she's written a bunch of books on autism because I was on the OR board and local. And then Dr. May Pham, who I don't know if I ever introduced you to her. She
I
used to
don't
be the
think so.
chief innovation officer at CMS, and she started the Institute for Exceptional Care. So I sit on her board in DC, and their job is to improve quality care for those with IDD. So right now, a physician gets on a good day 15 minutes of education in med school on how to treat people with IDD, and that's just
Sure.
not okay. And disabilities in general, it's just the education is not there. And there's a lot of different entities right now trying to fix that. In fact, Dr. Fung was talking about it this weekend at the Stanford Neurodiversity Summit about informed care for autism. And that's really great. And I was talking to Dr. Elizabeth Grady, who was talking about there's an intersectionality between informed trauma care and informed autism care. It's really quite interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah. But anyway, my dad said to me when I was working at Chandel as an engineer, you need to take your technology knowledge and do more in the autism space. My father actually said that to me. I said,
Mm,
yeah, you're right. I was raising two sons and working a lot and trying to stay up with my mortgage in the Bay. But I said, yeah. And I really didn't get to do it professionally and time wise until later. And it's been just fantastic. It feeds my soul. If I can do just a tiny little inch, half partial inch of that, what my dad did, then I'll go to my grave happy because I know it fed his soul and he did a lot of great work way beyond what I'll be able to do in my lifetime. He did in his lifetime.
Well, I think that's so cool about what you're doing is that you're taking your technology background and your leadership and systems thinking and applying it to what has historically been an underserved community, And I think that assistive technology as a term at large is something that is thrown around a lot and has a lot of different meanings, but it's really technology that enables people to fulfill their lives more. and I really love what you're doing.
Yeah, I wish I had more money to
Don't we
invest.
all?
I want the money for good, not
Yeah.
for myself. I'm comfortable enough, right? I live in a Berkeley bungalow in weather that suits me. It's not too hot here, so I'm very happy. And I can walk a lot of places. So it's a great place to live. And I just wish I had more money to invest. In fact, I will say the investors I have in my little group, I would say in general, investors are very coveted with their money these days. It'll be interesting to see how ATDev does in their Series A,
Yeah.
in your Series A, just because it's a hard time to fundraise. Ever since COVID, there was some ups and downs in fundraising and COVID, and it'll be just interesting to see where things go and will the gates open again for more investment.
Yeah, it's definitely a dynamic time, and I think with uncertainty, there's also opportunity as well. I think a lot of great companies have been formed during recessions, so I think from an entrepreneur's perspective, there's definitely opportunity when there's
Yeah,
uncertainty as
and
well.
the panel I just led at Stanford was all around entrepreneurship as a employment option for people on the spectrum or people who are neurodiverse.
Oh, interesting.
And that's important because 85% of people, as you probably know all these stats because you work with this community, are under unemployed. And that's a number that we've been quoting for 5 years.
Yeah,
And it's not okay. And as I said when we first got on the call before you started the podcast, was one of the stats that came out of the summit. I think EY quoted it as 53% of Gen Z identifies as neurodivergent.
yeah, that's so interesting.
It's a fascinating fact, and we just need to have more unique opportunities for employment for unique thinkers. Sam Altman just talked about from OpenAI how neurodivergent thinkers make the world a better place, that they want
Yeah.
those thinkers in the AI space because it's not the standard way of thinking. You need to think out of the box as an entrepreneur, as somebody playing in the AI space, as somebody who's thinking about neurodiversity. It's just a win win to have those different minds. I recommend everyone to watch The Accountant 2 because it has a
Mm.
great group of different thinkers that save the world. And it's pretty
Oh,
powerful.
yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah, I think a large portion of the reason why the world is the way it is because of the traditional thinking and the people that made a lot of the decisions think the way they think. And in order to have those new solutions, I think, especially in emerging technologies like AI, like you said, having a fresh mindset and different way of approaching problems is really invaluable.
Yeah, look at Elon Musk. He's neurodivergent. We may not like what he stands for in many ways, but it's that unique thinking that's got him where he is.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when you're evaluating technology and teams that are bringing technology to you as a investor or advisor, both in the autism space but also technology more broadly, what are some of the characteristics that stand out to you as what makes a startup more promising to be successful?
So it's very personal. Everyone has their own sort of themes that resonate with them as an angel. For me, it's the team. I have invested in solo founders that are extraordinary and neurodiverse. And I've also invested in teams that have had prior success in corporate and have moved to become entrepreneurship who have then folded. And I said, let me know when you're going to have another one because I have faith in them. And sometimes the market, things that change in the market, as an investor, you own the due diligence. And I know the risks I take. One time I invested in a company that was totally reliant on Google search outcomes. And I knew going in that that could change, and it changed. And then they went under, but they
Mm,
were great founders and they were doing great work. And you might even know them anyway. So I look at the team as number one. I look at the market, and again, I don't just invest in neurodiverse founders, I also invest in the space. So I know a lot about the space, but there's all these different angles within the space: healthcare, education, mental health, accessibility, work opportunities, etc. So you also, for me, I want to look at the social impact as a whole, not just the market and the return and the value you can get, but really how can you improve the community. So it's a little different thinking than a standard angel looking just to make money, because only 1 in 100 of these companies are going to really make it. And if you filter them out better, then your percentage of success is higher. So yeah, so team, market, solution, and uniqueness. What is it that's unique that sets it apart from anything else? And anything else could be current operating procedures. It may not be a competitor in the space if you're in a net new market, for example.
Right.
But I want to see what they have. I want to see how defendable that IP is. And then the last is really traction. And traction could be that it's a influencer who knows who people follow. It could be a volume of people who follow. It could be letters of intent where people like what you have and they want to see they're betting on that startup getting what the company needs. And so they'll do a letter of intent, which is a precursor to a contract. And or customers and buying already, you've got paying customers. So those are many, there's many, as many different categories of traction, but those are the four things that I look at. And then of course, once you look at all those four and you say you have four and I can only invest in two, then you go with your gut. What is the one
Right.
that resonates with, with my other portfolio companies? I've invested in about 50 companies and I'm a limited partner in several funds. So I look at what's going on there and is there something that I haven't touched on, or is it something that could then help something else that I've already invested in? So there you go.
Yeah, that's really insightful. It's really interesting to hear your thought process on evaluating. So I think AI and emerging technologies is something that everybody is really excited about and has a lot of implications for assistive technology. And I have been really excited by how AI can be used to help make people more independent and also help level the playing field, particularly in workforce development for people with disabilities. We're seeing a lot of really exciting new tools that allow people to work more efficiently. And I would really love to hear what is exciting to you about this space from a neurodiverse perspective.
Well, I think the thing with AI, and I've talked to quite a few people about this, and I think there's a theme, is how you never have AI do the work for you.
Mm,
It can't be in front of you doing the work for you. And for all people, disability and non disabled people, AI needs to be tools that are beside you, that are helping you, where you stay, your mind stays strong to be aware of the things that an AI tool can come up with. But you don't want to lose that ability. That's the thing. There was some recent study that I read this morning. I was in the Chronicle or something else I read that said for those that are using AI in front of them as opposed to beside them, are really hurting. Their brains are really
mm,
hurting in its ability to think. So that's the most
interesting.
important thing, is to use it smartly and appropriately and not to use it to your disadvantage by overusing it in front of you. And that's just how I think. If you're not using it, as I said at the summit, if you're not using it, you're going to fall behind
Yeah.
because everyone else now will be like, so for example, I was talking to a founder that I had invested in some time ago through Berkeley Angels, and his company was acquired and then he was starting a new company, and we talked about AI and he said I have saved 4 months just in the setup alone using AI. Now
Oh,
that's
wow.
somebody who's using it beside him, not in front of him, and it's not doing the work for him, it's supporting the work and accelerating the speed in which he can get things done. And that's
Right.
the right. And so for people who are disabled like yourself, AI is probably a gift and a half, right? Because you
Yep.
can use it to do things that will make you more efficient for your work time and smarter. You're working smarter, is what this is all about. And that's my thing on AI. There's no particular, so even for students, and this is really important for students to understand the ethics of AI and understand how you as a have a growing brain and you're garnering your education, how best to use it so that it's again beside you and not in front of you, and so you don't lose your cognitive abilities that one needs for some of this work. You still have to
Right.
keep that fresh. And I think more of a theme thing. Students use AI to do their work better and faster and smarter, but not to plagiarize, not to have it do it for you. Your job is to get an outline. Maybe you come up with a high level outline, you have AI help you build it out more, then you go back and you put your own creativity on it and make it more rich and make it
Right.
your voice. Without that, I worry about humanity.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I really love what you said about using it beside you versus in front of you. I think that's a really important distinction. And it has a lot of promise. For me personally, coding has always been so challenging, not because of the logic, although that is challenging. It's really because of the typing and, all of the on screen keyboards and dictation software I use are English only. And so to type a terminal command is, tedious beyond belief, having to point and click every single thing, where AI has really added an abstraction layer that's enabled me to become a much better coder. And I'm really excited about that.
That's fantastic. Yeah, that's really great. I I enjoyed coding, and I had to go down to the BIOS level back in the day with when you were a youngster and I was coding. We had buses and you put them in, and we were doing hard code BIOS debugging back in the day. Very different
Yeah,
today. But I'm glad someone like you can be get better at it with AI helping you. Yeah, that's just there's so many opportunities in the disability space for AI to help. I wish it was around when my brothers, who are now in their 60s,
right.
it's a little harder for the older population to get along with it, but there's a lot of programs out there that help. There's an intersectionality for your audience, if they don't know already, between disability tech and aging tech. It's obvious that they intersect. And so I think that for the disabled, if they're listening to this, look at some of the offerings for AI, free AI education for those for seniors, and
Mm,
vice versa for seniors. Look for AI supporting free education for those who are disabled, and there you'll see a lot of benefits for both.
that's wonderful. Thank you so much for your time today, Kathy. And for those of you who might want to learn more or get in touch, what's a good way to reach out to you?
We're volunteers at the Autism Angels Group, so sometimes we're a little slow, and I apologize if people sent me something and I didn't respond. I did do a lot of traveling this summer. We took my brother out of his group home finally after COVID to Ireland for a couple
Oh,
weeks, which was
nice.
fantastic. He got his Guinness. He wanted to have a Guinness. He heard his live music. It was all good. So the best thing to do is to go to the Autism Angels Group. It's autismangelsgroup.com, and you can just submit a form. My email is also there, but I'll give it to you here. It's Cathy with a C at autismangelsgroup.com, and I look forward to hearing from anybody.
Great. Thank you again, Kathy. And thank you to all our listeners. We really appreciate it. And don't forget to like and subscribe and stay tuned until the next one. All right. Thank you.